This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now for Monday, July 15th, 2024. Live and local, we're here for you. The number, 607-772-1290. Stay tuned for Binghamton Now.
WNBF.
And it's morning in America, Monday morning, and we are glad to be with you as we start off a brand new week. And we will be, of course, giving you all the latest coverage with the developments of the investigation into what happened on Saturday evening in Pennsylvania. So there will be frequent updates this morning and throughout the day today, right here on News Radio, WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. We certainly on the air will bring you live updates as appropriate, and throughout the day, if you can't stay tuned to what we're doing on the radio, you can always keep track of some of the latest developments on our website, WNBF.com. And I can also say, so you know, we've got some very interesting local stories that you will find fascinating, not just today, but throughout the week, that I will be posting online. And, of course, you'll hear them on the air here at WNBF, your radio station. Searching for answers. That's the headline on page 1 of USA Today. Searching for answers. The motive is unknown in the assassination attempts. Donald Trump is now in Milwaukee. The Republican National Convention will go on as scheduled. At some point, we expect that Donald Trump will appear in public, make some public statement. He's released some information, some thoughts on social media, but he has not made any appearances since he was injured on Saturday evening. Again, plenty of questions regarding what transpired, and unfortunately it's going to take time, certainly not just hours or days, but more likely weeks and months before some of the most important questions are answered. 607-772-1290 is the number. So the situation facing the United States is extremely unusual. It's hard to really appreciate a time, at least certainly in my lifetime and probably in your lifetime, where we face this type of uncertainty. There's some parallels to what's happening now, I suppose, to some of what was going on in this country in 1968. In 1968, for the United States on so many levels was a calamitous year. At home, and of course with the Vietnam War raging, and not only were Americans extremely unhappy, in some cases angry for various reasons, but from a political standpoint, things were in a state of flux. It's 9:15 at News Radio, WNBF, WNBF.com. President Biden has made a call for unity, and former President Trump also calling for unity and for people to work together. And to be the United States of America. Look at, I'm glancing at the front page of the New York Times this morning. Of course, the biggest story, the banner headline is "Gunman's Motives Sought" as Trump vows to go to the Republican National Convention. So that's the big headline that dominates the front page. But then some of the other stories that go with the coverage: in the aftermath of the assassination attempt, FBI finding few red flags on the shooter. The 20-year-old gunman who attempted to assassinate former President Donald J. Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania lived in a relatively affluent suburb in the South Hills region of Pittsburgh, about an hour's drive from the site of the rally. That neighborhood in Bethel Park, where the shooter grew up, is, quote, pretty firmly middle class, maybe upper middle class, according to a local official. There's also a couple of other stories. U.S. is likely to be ripped further apart, a news analysis by Peter Baker. It says, when President Ronald Reagan was shot by an attention-seeking drifter in 1981, the country united behind its injured leader. The teary-eyed Democratic Speaker of the House, Thomas O'Neill, went to the hospital room of the Republican president, held his hands, kissed his head, and got on his knees to pray for him. Well, as I drove to work this morning, I was thinking of something perhaps like that, not identical to that. And I thought, what if today or tomorrow, preferably today, what if Joe Biden and Donald Trump, if only for a few minutes, made a joint appearance? Could be at the White House, wherever, Milwaukee. Can you imagine? Can you imagine these two political foes showing up and standing or sitting side by side and speaking as two regular people? A president and a former president, side by side, unscripted. Whether it's for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. Would that solve all the country's problems, all the challenges that the U.S. faces right now? No, it would not solve them. Could it help? Could it help the country start to heal? Well, couldn't hurt. So maybe that thought that came to me as I was driving here to the station in downtown Binghamton this morning. Maybe that thought seems far-fetched or total fantasy, except it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a fantasy. It doesn't have to be just something that someone imagined. There's nothing that precludes Joe Biden and Donald Trump from getting together wherever. Maybe in Milwaukee. Donald Trump is in Milwaukee. How long would it take for the White House travel team to make arrangements for President Biden to travel to Milwaukee, where Donald Trump is right now? How long would it take? Not just logistically, physically transporting the president to Milwaukee to meet with, first privately, the former president, and then the two of them publicly. It wouldn't take that long. How long would it take to make arrangements to have a live feed wherever they choose to be? And they wouldn't even have to announce it in advance. And then amazingly and shockingly, we see the two men who've been bitter political opponents side by side. And treating each other as fellow human beings. It's 9:22. I'm Bob Joseph, listening to Binghamton Now at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. 607-772-1290 on a Monday morning. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Tom from Endicott. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now.
All right. Well, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Yeah, it's very tragic what happened yesterday, but I just thought, I appreciate what President Biden did. Building on your current comment, he could have said something about, making someone a target. He didn't have to say he said this, but he could have said, saying someone's a target, saying we're compromising democracy, we have to stop that. Just taking those few steps beyond the norm, and then I think that would have been a good thing to do. I was disappointed that, even in his talking about the previous incidents, he didn't mention Scalise. He didn't mention the threat to the Supreme Court justice, the assassination there. And I just thought that he could have done that. It wouldn't have hurt him that bad. But that's my feeling, as a way to kind of heal a little bit. And he could certainly then have said, and I know President Trump has said things, about me, and those hurt me also. But we've got to change that. What do you think?
Well, I think there's merit to what you said. What do you think about what I said a few minutes ago? I don't know if you heard my dream. Because I had a daydream on the way into the station. Yeah. Did you hear that? Where I said at some point today, preferably sooner rather than later, that we see President Biden and former President Trump side by side, whether it's in Milwaukee, that would be the simplest place because Donald Trump is already in Milwaukee, and we know President Biden has access to transportation that could get him from D.C. to Milwaukee fast. And so I say by about noon today or 1 o'clock this afternoon that the two men who are clearly strong political opponents meet privately and have a chat, and then afterwards, whether it's at the convention venue where the convention will start tonight or wherever in Milwaukee, that the two of them speak side by side, whether it's for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, unscripted, and just chat like normal people, and basically use that as a symbolic moment for the country to come together, that we don't have to forget that we have our own opinions about issues, but we as Americans can certainly work together and respect each other.
No, I think that would be tremendous. It would just show some give and take on both sides, because that's what it's going to take. I'm concerned that even in this convention happening, there's still going to be the people out there in those protest areas with the same old stories on both sides of the hate and the rhetoric, and I maybe at least at a minimum, the news can just kind of ignore that. They can just filter some of that out that they might in the past have played up. I'm hoping at least they could help. In addition,
well, maybe in lieu of ignoring it, at least place it into some context, proper perspective. I think that when this country goes through the process, the presidential nomination process every 4 years, I expect in America that we're going to see protests associated with these political conventions. That's part of America. And say a political convention, whether it's the Republican convention this week in Milwaukee or next month, the Democratic convention in Chicago, political convention without protest in the streets, regardless of what the issues are, it would feel awkward. It wouldn't feel right. And so I don't think people should be discouraged from protesting, but I also think whether people want to go to Milwaukee or Chicago to demonstrate their concern about specific issues, I hope that they will use the opportunities to enjoy their freedom as Americans to express themselves, but also to show real respect to those with whom they disagree.
Yeah, you said it much. That's what I meant. What you said was exactly what I meant. You don't need to have these outrageous signs up and things. Just take those down and just put up the issue that you care about, not the outrageous signs. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that sort of protest can be constructive. I don't think all protests need to be destructive and need to be nonstop put-downs of the people with whom you disagree. I mean, to me, there's a more mature way to approach our disagreements than behaving the way we were in second grade.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob.
Thank you. By the way, why are you in D.C. today?
My wife has a technical meeting, but we also visited our grandkids over the weekend. And you think about them; they're just starting out, and we can't go on this way. It has to change. Imagine what would have happened if the president had been assassinated. I can't even think about what would have happened if that had happened. So
no, it would. I mean, just even what's happened, what transpired was heartbreaking and so disappointing. But to think of what could have happened, and now hopefully in some way what happened on Saturday evening will serve as a wake-up call to get us to try to work together.
Take care.
Thank you. It's 9:31 at News Radio WNBF. We'll be taking more calls throughout the morning. So if you have thoughts about what happened over the weekend, and then thoughts about where we go from here, that's what this program is about. We're glad to have you with us at News Radio WNBF. I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now. We welcome back to the program the Tioga County Chamber President and CEO, Sabrina Enriquez. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
So, start of another week.
Yes, and it was quite the weekend, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it was. It was. I tried to balance my weekend from following the developments since Saturday night, but also still trying to keep a little time for myself, because if you become immersed in something, especially something, it's important, but something over which you have no control, and then your life becomes skewed. So I think I agree. I think we always have to try to strike some sort of a balance. And I guess there's an imaginary line of how much we need to stay informed, but also how much we need time to spend either with ourselves, sometimes just a few minutes quietly or with friends.
Yeah, I've definitely been working on setting those boundaries of, how much do I need to take in? Can I just stay in the house and not, if I can go home and not leave, it is like the best feeling.
Yeah.
Literally, it's the best feeling if I don't have to leave the house at all.
I enjoy what I do. I enjoy this job Monday through Friday, being on the air for 3 hours. And also, I've already been out working on a couple of stories, taking pictures for a couple of stories that I'll be reporting on today or later this week. And then I'll look forward, I don't care how hot it gets, I'll be out somewhere around the Triple Cities. Who knows, maybe even Owego later today.
Yes, you need to come to Owego.
Yes, well, don't worry. I was just in Owego yesterday, so I keep it up. And I had lunch in Owego at
Where'd
Carol's.
You go? That's right across the street from my building, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
You should have texted me. I would have came over.
Yeah. I wouldn't text you on a Sunday. I figure you're probably relaxing, but
True.
Yeah.
Sundays, I try my best not to leave the house.
So, and what a great lunch. And there was live music too.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And I didn't realize that he was even going to be there. And then the repertoire that he was playing was for my demographic. A lot of the music was from when I was growing up, but he also threw in a couple of more recent things too. Yeah. So I said he knows how to keep it balanced. So, he could please whether you're 18 or my age.
Agree.
Yeah. So anyway,
great.
It was a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about Tioga County in a moment, but I know one thing that we were discussing before we began our segment on the air is just some thoughts in the aftermath of what happened Saturday evening and where we are as a nation. This is going to be a critical year for the United States.
It is.
And you have had experience living outside the United States in countries where the way we have always expected orderly transitions.
Right.
And we know our presidential elections happen like clockwork every 4 years. And then, if a president is lucky, he or she could be in office for up to 8 years, or maybe they only get one term. But we have some predictability in our government that some other nations haven't been as fortunate to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what you and I talked about was, I used to go down to Jamaica a lot, and I went down during the election season, and I was wearing like a green dress, which I guess is the opposition. And literally the car I was in was surrounded, and people started shaking the car and, thinking that I'm, supporting this government that they're trying to basically overthrow. So, I had that happen. And then I was in Italy. I did live in Italy. I lived in Italy for about 3.5 years. I was in Naples, and I thought it was a parade. And so I was excited. And the next thing I know, I walk down there, and it's people protesting, and they're protesting the government, started throwing bottles. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not the tourist experience that I was looking for. However, I don't think a lot of people understand that elections all over the world are really like that. You have people who are fighting in the streets and assassinations. And, my biggest fear is that I just hope that us as Americans, that we never experience our elections at that point. And so when I saw that, the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, are we going to go to where I've seen around the world? And that's what I don't want to see.
Now, life in general, just our personal lives and even just the issues we deal with sort of on a local or regional basis can be challenging and occasionally chaotic enough. But if we have to worry about nonstop chaos and unpredictability at the national level, this country has so many challenges.
Yeah.
And we have enough people, enough brain power to ultimately address those challenges, but we're not going to make much progress if we're focused almost exclusively on going after each other.
This, and again, this is totally my own personal opinion here. I feel like the moderate is being extinct. I feel like being moderate is not it's just not okay anymore. I just feel like everybody's so far on both extremes. And again, this is my own personal opinion. It's people are so far on both extremes that those of us who are actually moderates, I used to make a joke, the moderates will rise again. It's kind of, I'm from the South, so we say the South will rise again, right? And I feel like the further that we go, where it's so far to either side, and we're moving so far away from being moderates, I feel like that's also kind of contributing to some of the turmoil too.
And I think the way the media landscape has evolved over the last several years.
I agree with you 100% on that, right?
So you have lots of talk radio with people opinionating, including the station.
Yeah.
Cable TV, especially in prime time, from 8 to 11. Everybody has an opinion, and that's great. Mm-hmm. And then now with social media, and I've had conversations with people over the last couple of days about how things have changed over the years, where now, as long as anybody has a phone, they basically, so potentially, as many as nearly 8 billion people on the planet can broadcast their opinion to a world, whether the world wants to hear your opinion or not, and there are very few filters. I mean, we have to be proactive too to protect ourselves from being overwhelmed, because in an era, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whatever the platforms, if we don't exercise self-control, I think we can easily fall into this well of darkness.
Absolutely.
and a feeling of hopelessness and despair, when in fact, if we get up, turn off your phone, turn off your TV, turn off your radio, not during this program, but but you know what, you have to,
you're absolutely right.
At some point, you have to be the one. And I know, I was talking with a couple of people on Sunday. Well, it didn't used to be this way. Well, that's true, because the traditional media sort of served as gatekeepers and filters.
Correct.
And so you might get your evening news, say, from one of the major networks, or, when CNN started in, I think, 1980.
Yeah.
When Ted Turner.
The 24-hour news.
Yeah. And it was different then because they weren't competing with any other news channels.
Right.
And then 2 new news channels came on in 1996, and that changed everything, because they had to compete with each other for a limited audience.
I agree.
And that's why the opinion shows were developed, because you need appointment viewing. You can't rely on a news audience just when there's breaking news, and then when the dust settles from a breaking news story, then the people who had been watching for nonstop developments go on and with their lives. I mean, that's why you need opinion shows or other feature shows to keep people coming back on a daily basis. So that's why things started to change rapidly in 1996.
Okay, so do you feel like the fall of real news, right, as we know it, is actually the 24-hour news cycle? Because you have to fill something. You have to fill those slots, right?
The news machine is voracious.
Yeah.
It constantly needs to be fed.
Exactly.
And now, it was one thing with radio stations and TV stations. See, when I grew up, radio stations usually weren't on the air all the time. TV stations would sign off, say at midnight or 1 a.m.
Correct. You get the rainbow.
Yeah,
the rainbow.
Yes. You'd get the color bars.
Yeah.
And now it's nonstop, and so people want something. The worst thing, whether it's radio, TV, or an online platform, the worst thing is not to have something filling it, no matter whether it's high quality or just, well, we'll put this on. It's 3 a.m. Well, at least we have something. And it's, something, I guess, is better than nothing. But then again, that also means inevitably that we as Americans, don't have even built-in time. Because I know people, if they're sleepless, if they are having some insomnia, instead of just tossing and turning, or maybe, a summer night, go out for a walk or something, instead they will turn on the radio or TV, and, well, it certainly probably takes their mind off whatever personal issues they were worried about,
right.
But that gives them a whole new set of worries.
No, I agree with you. You kind of become a news junkie. Like,
yeah.
I used to watch the news from like all over the world. I would watch every single region and watch what was going on, and I literally became a news junkie, and I just had to step away. I was like, look, this is just
it's not
too much.
healthy.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
Yeah.
And I was too. I mean, up until, well, I don't know at what point, but there was, for a long time, I was watching and listening and reading almost everything I could. And then I had to come to the realization now with the internet, the amount of information pouring in is infinite. There's no stop.
There's no
stop. It's like a fire hose.
Yeah,
and,
literally. And it's not filtered, right?
Well, that's the whole thing.
And so you don't really know what you're getting.
So it's exhausting.
But then also add the AI thing. All these AI videos that are now being put, and you're looking at it as it's real footage, and it's literally an AI generated video. Like, what's real and what's not there's such a blurred line now.
Yeah. Challenging. Anyway,
right.
that's not why you came in.
Now that one chamber hat. Now I am Sabrina Henriquez of the Tioga County Chamber of Commerce.
General thoughts, two people just chatting about life in America today.
Yeah.
Now let's focus on some of the great things going on in Tioga County.
Yeah, so, we had our economic forecast. We had that about a couple months ago, and it went absolutely amazing. I mean, the first year we did 100 people. This year we had a little over 150. We also did like a survey of how people felt about it, and it was very good. But everybody was kind of looking at how did they like the speakers and how did they like the panelists and the format? But what I was really focused on was that room had from age 16 to 65. And you had these really great reviews across these demographics. And I think it really spoke to, one, the panelists that we had. We had two key speakers. So we had E.J. McMahon. Look, I said it right this time. We had Giovanni Scaringi as one of our key speakers. We also had Omar. Chris White. Chris White is absolutely amazing. But in regards to the key speakers, I think it really points to, especially with Giovanni, is he's an educator, right? And so he's able to explain things in a way, that people really understood. So I was very, very happy with that. One of the questions that came out of that I actually pulled from was, why does Tioga County only have 6 houses available? So I started doing like all this digging and data, and I was actually, side note, I was on a meeting with Jason Gardner. He's you guys' county executive.
Yeah, he's the Broome County executive.
So I was on this meeting with him, and he was really, and it was talking about housing, and he was really asking all the right questions. We both were kind of, giving data back and forth about the housing. And uniquely for Tioga County, I don't know if people know this, over 50% of our houses have no mortgages. So when you have, yes, exactly. That was the same look I had, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when you have such a high number of houses that aren't even on the market to begin with, and then you have people who obviously locked their mortgage rates in at, the 3 to 5%, you have this huge sector of housing that just isn't in play. So we were in on a meeting and we were kind of talking about that, but I definitely wanted to say, was very impressed by him. He was... It was good. It was really good being on that with him. And, he and I aren't going to actually work together. He's on a different work group than I am. But it was great for us to kind of talk about that housing data. So that's kind of where the economic forecast, we're definitely going to have another one. I love the idea of an update. I like when someone gives me information and predictions that they have to come back and say, this is where I was right and this is where I was wrong. So I love the idea of economic forecast events. I really, as a matter of fact, speaking of news, did you hear about the 40 banks that were absorbed in China?
No, I missed that.
See? So and nobody's really talking about it, right? There was literally 40 banks that were absorbed by a bigger one. And so to me, if I was going to an economic forecast today or tomorrow, my question would be, what does that mean for us, right? Like, China still holds a lot of our debt. So what does that mean for us? Is this a matter of like, is China collapsing, or is this the government being the government? Like what's the situation there? So I think having economic forecast events is just so important for us as business owners and community stakeholders. So that's kind of, where we went with the economic forecast. And this leads me straight into, we have a ribbon cutting coming up on, what is it, July 26th. And that's the Nelson Development Group, and that is a 55-plus apartment complex. So, housing is kind of like, this ever-change, it's always kind of a thing, right? And so we actually have new housing coming on board. And then, of course, I'm definitely vested in the housing. I bought that building. Yeah. I'm so far over my head, dude. Oh, my goodness.
Hey, you gotta have $1 and a dream. Oh, gotta be in it to win it.
There's no self-help groups for us. Oh, my goodness. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so we have a golf event coming up this Thursday at the Links. Super excited about that. We kept our Cinco de Mayo theme, so I will be definitely in like red roses, and I'm going all out. Me, I'm definitely going to show up for the occasion.
Right.
Let's see. We're doing a legislative breakfast. That's going to be in September. Maybe I can come back and talk about that too.
You certainly may.
So we're having a legislative breakfast, and I love the thought. This is actually my first one. But I love the thought of like this meet and greet of like our elected officials and knowing where they stand on policies as well as what they're doing to like further the business community. So I am really excited about this legislative breakfast. We have, of course, our business expo that's going to happen in October. We are really doing great things out in Tioga. We have a couple of new restaurants. Did you make it to Kalasha's Kitchen yet?
Not yet.
You got to go there.
It's on my list.
Got to be on your list. Absolutely amazing. We had a new icy shop open. Of course, we just did the ribbon cutting for Catholic Charities, which, oh my goodness, I am so happy for them. That's been a long time in the making. So we're doing great things out
Steve
in Tioga.
Crudy says he's moving forward with his project, his big projects over on Front Street. It's not moving as fast as originally planned, but he told us, I believe a couple of weeks ago, he acquired the historic Planters Peanut Roaster here from M&D Nuts.
Yes, I saw that.
Our neighbors. And so he's excited about that. And as you may recall, he, for the upcoming project through Tioga County, received a $1.8 million state grant for his new project. Steve and his wife are working with the new project over not far from the bridge and right next to the bridge. And so hopefully that store could be open in the first quarter of next year. Also,
my building's right next to them.
Well, so keep your eye open.
Yeah.
And then you'll be smelling the roasted nuts probably next spring.
Nuts, chocolate, everything.
And then don't forget, they're starting construction on the Aldi store right on Route 17C. They knocked down the former Treadway Conference Center.
That's going to be incredible, too. We're doing a lot of great things. Yeah, a lot going on.
Oh, yeah, and Lockheed Martin. But we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
But at some point, they're still flying helicopters. Every time I look, I see, oh, look, Lockheed Martin is out flying helicopters around. And I'm saying, one of those helicopters at some point, because they were smart, they bought Sikorsky. So one of those helicopters that we're seeing avionics being worked on, someday will be landing on the lawn of the White House. So.
Yeah, I was actually at the announcement for that when Senator Schumer. Yeah, I was there for that. So it's amazing. We're doing great things out in Tioga County, and we'll keep going.
All right. Well, thanks for popping in,
Thank you
Sabrina
for having
Enriquez
me.
of the Tioga County Chamber. Yeah, there's so much going on.
So much.
Amazing. Coming up next, speaking of amazing, Gerald Smith, who is from Tioga County. He's coming in. We're going to talk about history. That's coming up next, right here on News Radio, WNBF, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Bob Joseph, along with my co-host, Gerald Smith. Congratulations on
Why, thank you on the
being
promotion.
appointed
Yeah.
co-host. You'll be...
It still doesn't pay anything, does it?
Oh, no.
Okay. But I got a title.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
So
fine.
Congratulations.
Here we go.
We're co-host and producer.
Ooh.
And now, starting effective immediately,
Yes.
you can host the program solo Mondays and Fridays. I know. You're
Okay.
going to have to talk with your.
Wow.
With
I'll
your
see how my employers in Owego?
Yeah. You're off on Mondays.
I'm off
from
on
your
Mondays,
Owego
but
job.
Fridays...
You're supposed to be there.
In
Well, you
fact,
could
Sabrina
host it.
just said, can't you work remotely? And I went, no, I have to open the doors and turn the lights on. So
Really, the doors won't open themselves.
No, the ghosts of Owego won't open the doors.
Ooh, scary.
Yeah.
Let's see, a couple things right off the top. There's something that's coming up in Owego on Saturday.
On Saturday at 2:00. I have arm twisted our colleague Brian Fry of WSKG, the Emmy Award-winning producer. He makes me say that. He's going to do Agnes, the Flood of 72. He's talking about his documentary about Hurricane Agnes that hit this region, and especially hard hit places like Elmira, Corning, and Wilkes-Barre. So that's going to be Saturday at 2:00 in the upper gallery, and it's free and open to the public.
Who was the congressman who represented northeastern Pennsylvania in 1972 at the time?
Oh, I don't remember, and I think he was...
Think of the mustache.
Think of the mustache?
Mustachioed. He had the most memorable mustache, Daniel Flood.
Oh.
I always thought that was great.
Oh, Daniel
I
Flood,
think that-
speaking of floods.
Yeah. Wasn't that before he was indicted?
Yes. I would hope so. Because
Leave it to me to bring up that.
Well,
Well,
some politicians have been indicted before,
He,
Some have been convicted before.
I'm looking up the Wikipedia story. You know what they say, and this is a good rule of thumb.
What do they say, Bob?
What they say is, if you can't say something nice, then don't say it. But then this is radio, and we can't have dead air.
I was going to say we wouldn't be talking about anything.
No.
Oh.
So, having said that,
Yes.
with the acknowledgement that Daniel Flood, now I'm looking at a picture, he had this, what do you call it, like a handlebar mustache?
Yeah, the thing, yeah.
He probably spent thousands of dollars a month on mustache wax.
Wasn't as good as Salvador Dali's.
No. No, nobody's mustache.
No,
can be.
Salvador Dali's.
So, of course, what we do when we bring up a random name, we go to Wikipedia, and the first thing that pops up, Daniel Flood. This is apparently the headline. When he died, they gave him a couple of inches in the New York Times. Daniel Flood, 90, who quit Congress in disgrace, is dead. That was the headline. I can't help it. It's not. We didn't.
No, but it sounds like he quit Congress and then he just keeled over in disgrace.
Yeah. So, I didn't realize he was born into an ethnic Irish family in Hazleton. I know Hazleton. Good times.
Me too. Yeah.
Good times. So he, the reason he was so popular, especially after he had gained so much experience after he was in Congress for so many years, he wound up being very powerful. So that means he could bring home the bacon.
Yes.
And it was very fortunate, actually, for Wilkes-Barre and other parts of northeastern Pennsylvania that were decimated by the flooding in the aftermath of Agnes, that they had somebody like Daniel Flood who could get all that money.
Yes.
And so, anyway, it's been 30 years. He died in Wilkes-Barre on May 28th, 1994.
Well, Hurricane Agnes was 1972. Right. So we're talking 52 years ago. By the way, Brian, for this, got a very nice interview with Tommy Hilfiger. Because Tommy Hilfiger started out by selling used clothing in Elmira.
And I think as you drive into Elmira on the main drag, his picture still is there.
Yeah.
Along with, speaking of disgraced NBC News anchor Brian Williams.
Who was born in Elmira.
Yeah. But his family didn't live there. I think he only lived there
moved
for
to New Jersey.
a few years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But Elmira was really proud of him until he was caught telling.
But they've still got Mark Twain.
Yeah. And who else? Oh, I think.
Many other places.
The astronaut.
What's
her name?
She just spoke there, too.
How soon we forget.
It's not Collins. No.
Yes.
Is it? Yes,
Yes.
it's Collins. But I've forgotten her first name, and
I was going to say, Eileen.
Yes, Eileen Collins.
I didn't know Eileen Collins is older than I am.
Well, there's some dirt still out there
I was
that's older
going to
than you,
say,
too.
there are very few people alive today who are older than I.
Hey, I'm older than you are.
But, a tad.
A tad.
A tad.
A touch.
So, yeah. Eileen.
I got a birthday later this year that ends in a 0, and I don't want to think about that.
Eileen Marie Collins. Well, you know what they say. Life begins at 40, so something to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's what they say over on the Vestal Parkway at Fox
Life
40.
began a few decades ago then for me.
So Eileen Marie Collins was born in Elmira. Yeah.
See?
Yeah. She went to Corning Community College,
Yes.
Syracuse University, Stanford, Webster University. So what they're trying to tell me is she was smarter. That not only is she a bit older than I am, but she was a lot smarter. Well,
yes.
she got to go into space, and
I was going to say, it doesn't take much. There you are.
I'm here standing in front of a microphone in what used to be Sisson's Bargain Basement, where you used to be able to buy 2 dresses for $1.
Yeah. And we wish you'd stop buying those because you really don't look good in them.
Hey.
You haven't got the legs.
Hey. I only buy them for Halloween.
Of course,
when I play in character, J. Edgar Hoover.
Of course, to the listeners out there, I'm wearing shorts today because it's rather warm out.
Well, we have to.
And at work, I wear a suit and a tie.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because I'm professional. Always.
So, okay, Brian Fry will be in Owego. What time on Saturday?
2:00.
And how much are tickets?
Absolutely free and open to the public, but donations are graciously accepted.
And where should people go if they want to hear Brian
We are
Fry's
at
presentation?
110 Front Street in Owego. Our phone number is area code 607-687-2460. Or you can email me at director@tiogahistory.org.
I like it.
That sounds like a good commercial, doesn't it? There
That
we go.
sounds like a great commercial.
Yeah.
It's too bad we didn't have a TV crew in here. Call up
And
somebody.
now, for something completely different.
That reminds me, have you seen Jim Emke lately?
No.
Yeah, neither have I.
Okay. Is he not on the air? Or?
Well,
I assumed he was.
Well, no, it's not a question whether
and
he's on
personally,
the air.
No, I've
yeah.
spoken to him a couple months back because he called quickly, said, Jerry, I know you got a new job, but I really need the answer. I got 30 seconds. Okay, Jim. It's Jim Emke from Channel 34. And so I helped him.
See, as we've discussed innumerable times, you are a resource for journalists. I mean,
Yes.
whether it was
I know.
Larry Sperano calling you on some holiday.
Yes.
I know it's the holiday, but I need,
But can you go over there and I'll send Mick Dwyer over and he'll be your videographer.
Yeah, it's
because
like-
Mick was my videographer
Yes.
when I did the pieces
you
for
know,
40.
it's like, okay,
Larry
yeah.
Sperano, yes.
Right. And,
Steve Craig,
yep.
who showed up in front of my house saying, Jerry, can you film a piece? Well, when? How about now? What do you mean now? We're in
Like
front of
now.
your house. Yeah, he was parked in front of my house.
Yeah.
He said, I found your address and figured I'd just come over.
Really, like some sort of twisted stalker.
And you know what? I came out and did the
Of
piece.
course. Well, that's what we love over the decades. I mean, it goes back. I mean, you provided information, whether it was to Bernie Fianci
I know.
or contributing so many times to Bill Parker's program. I mean, you've been...
I've done Communications Center 12, Action News, and now whatever. I've gone through the various incarnations.
Yeah. Oh, I saw they put your column in the paper yesterday.
Yes, they did.
The Rockefeller story.
Not on the front page.
No, not this time. But
I
it'll be
did have
back.
2 weeks in a row.
I know. It'll be back on the front page.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
But we did the Rockefeller connection.
Yes, and Rockefeller in Broome County, you even, to your credit, managed to mention Nelson Rockefeller's pioneering work in digital communication.
That's right. Well, some of us were around when
Yes.
Nelson Rockefeller was at the Broome County Airport, and you're not you student here.
You long heard hippie freaks from Harper College.
That's right.
You should be thankful.
Here's the direction I'm pointing. You know? So, no, I did refer to that.
But sadly, and when I say sadly, that means for historians like myself,
Yes.
they didn't use the file photo.
No.
Don Black's historic file photo. That was a perfect opportunity to trot that. You know what they should have done?
Well, I didn't send it to them either, but
No, but they still have access.
all
right.
yes.
I mean, Don Black took the photo.
Yes.
I still say that
they
was
didn't run it in the local paper, but it was run on national.
Well, they ran it. They ran it inside.
Yes.
They were afraid to put it on the front page
Yes.
because we're a conservative area, and if people in Binghamton saw Don Black's photo on the front page of the Sun Bulletin or the Evening Press,
Right.
they would probably cancel their subscriptions.
Yep.
So they tucked it in on the inside. Then after it received, 2 days after it received global notoriety,
Yes.
including on front pages of U.S. and European papers,
Yes.
then finally they put it on the front page of the Saturday Press
Yes.
and Sun Bulletin.
Yes.
It's like, okay, now we can do it not because we're trying to shock you, just to illustrate that a picture taken by one of our talented staff photographers got this kind of attention. It should have been on the front page to begin with. But getting back to my point, and I think they still want to sell newspapers. I don't know. They're not.
I believe so, yes.
The people who run the place locally are under strict orders not to talk with me. They want to talk with me. Trust me.
Yeah. I'll talk with you.
Well, but you're a contributor.
I'm a contributor. I don't run.
They're not allowed
No.
by corporate to ever talk with me, even though they want to. See, therein lies the rub. They desperately want to talk with me so I can share their pain,
Yeah.
but they're under strict orders not to talk, because if they talk with reporters, they'll get fired. Isn't it ironic that at a media company, especially a major media company, that if their people talk with reporters, they get fired? Isn't there? There seems to be something, I don't know, ironic about that.
Yes.
Anyway, it occurs to me if they had wanted to sell a lot of papers yesterday, they should have stuck your column on the front page again, where it deserves to be every week,
Why,
by the
thank
way,
you.
every Sunday. And above the fold, a couple of Rockefeller file photos. One of John D. Rockefeller.
Oh, well, yes.
Because you got to admit he was the ringleader, I'll call him.
Yes.
So to speak. And then also, just to be clever, but still above the fold, because you want, in this business,
You want people to pay attention.
you want people to fork over the $4.50 for the paper.
Yep.
So you put
Nelson
a file
Rockefeller
photo on the right side with
Nelson.
that Don Black file photo of how Nelson Rockefeller communicated with Harper students who apparently he felt didn't have access to a lot of words. So he was like, hey, take this, digitally speaking.
Yes.
But can you imagine they would sell out?
Yeah.
They could have called up the printing plant in New Jersey and said, print an extra 5,000 copies and dump them off at Wegmans. We'll sell every one because we're going to be cute.
And put that on the front.
People will be offended, and yet they'll buy it to show their grandchildren. And their grandchildren will be like, that's how we communicate at school all the time. We learned that from the principal.
Poor Nelson.
No. And by the way...
Yes.
No, I can't say that. He just, at the end, he was happy.
Yes, he was.
That's all I'll say.
He
and his
wasn't
wife
with,
was happy.
He wasn't with Happy,
No,
but he was happy.
and she was unhappy. But
Yeah, he
but
was
again,
happy.
the story of life. Let's be clear. The story of
It's
of
a
life.
circle of life. You know?
It's twists and turns. That's what makes life worth living. Because
Yeah.
as they say,
I'm going to hear
Let's
a
take
chorus of
call.
Gakuma Chada now.
Let's see. Let's go to the phones.
Let's
This-
do that since I see lights blinking.
It's probably the phone company asking whether we paid our bill.
It's probably
yet.
the Rockefellers, and they want you off the air. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if hi, this is whoever isn't
I don't know who's
the
left.
Rockefeller, somebody at Rockefeller Center, no doubt.
Well,
anyway,
yeah.
let's
Okay,
see if they want.
here we go.
Hi, WNBF, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Why, how are you doing, Bob and Sir Gerald? It's Jesse from Owego.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi, Jesse in Owego. I haven't been to Owego in literally hours.
Yeah, you were at Carol's Coffee. She is such a sweetheart. She's my favorite.
I
She's a gem.
had such a great rap, and I did have a carbonated beverage. She wasn't serving Moxie, but it was something pretty good. So it was great lunch.
I'll have to ask her. Every time I walk in, I always say, honey, I'm home. She knows.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It's a great place.
It is. Hey, by the way, as for Hurricane Agnes, had that hurricane been a little more east toward us, Glen Mary Drive wouldn't even exist to this day.
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole area got hit, but, I mean, we sort of got a glancing blow here. But if you go to Elmira or Corning or Wilkes-Barre or Harrisburg or some of those areas, they really got sucked by
They did.
by a
They
storm
did.
that sort of reformed in the interior. So,
Yeah, if you go, let's say, you go past the Owego High School,
right?
and if you can get out there in that farmer's field and then just look up at the cliff, you can see how close the Owego Creek was eroding that cliff,
Oh, yeah.
which
Yeah.
is very close to Glen Mary Drive. Had that got in any further, it all would have collapsed. It probably would have been 20, 30 homes gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So it's interesting, though. So the Owego Middle School obviously was unscathed from Agnes, and then in 2011, the
Yeah.
Owego Middle School got wrecked,
Yep.
and so it had to be torn down and replaced. So it's always interesting. That's, Jesse, what I learned from September 2011, if you want new schools built in Broome and Tioga counties, you need to have a really big flood,
yeah.
because the Owego Middle School was destroyed by the 2011 flood, and
Yep.
MacArthur School over
Yes.
on Binghamton South Side. So those two school projects, I think combined were about $150 million worth
Probably.
of construction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what Hurricane Agnes did. I mean, it was good, it was bad. Back then in the day, I remember hearing on WEBO, right between where the Owego North School was and the high school, there was a huge dike, and it was made out of railroad ties. It was probably 20 feet tall. We'd ride our bikes and jump off of that, and I remember hearing on WEBO, the dike is collapsing.
Yikes.
And boy, there was nothing left. And after the hurricane, we finally got back down. And I went over there to the Owego Creek. There was nothing but a huge whirlpool where the dike used to be. I mean, totally gone. It was encased in steel and railroad ties, and it was just gone.
Yeah.
Like,
Mother Nature is a
Powerful.
very powerful force.
Well, I blame climate change. I appreciate your call, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
have a great day.
Okay.
So there you go.
See?
By the way, speaking of history, did you
Yes.
see the kids who were in charge of the strawberry? They took the old strawberry and now they put in a bigger, better, brighter strawberry.
Yeah, that the group has done that, much with some local discussion that they're not in favor of the new one and the old one is still there, and there's QR codes and all the. I don't get involved in that.
Well, did I heard that they might at least have some portions of the original strawberry that they would possibly donate to your place, so it could be on display. Do you know anything about that?
No, I haven't heard a thing.
Stay tuned.
Okay. Maybe
so
there's.
play your cards right and don't say anything
I have a
publicly.
big wooden strawberry in my office.
Well, don't say anything.
Okay.
You're not going to get the. Here's the thing. They're well, first of all, the bottom part, and I didn't realize till they actually removed the original strawberry and set it aside for the construction of the new one during the Strawberry Festival
Right.
about a month ago. I didn't realize how much the bottom part had rotted out.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
because of insects and moisture. So I think they may have a way of selling some parts of it, but I think there's also maybe an intention of portions that could wind up at your place over there at 110 Front Street. Again, it's totally off the record.
Of course.
Not for broadcast.
Oh,
wait,
so
we're on the air now.
Everybody don't listen to Bob.
Really, don't listen. Well, they don't listen anyway, so why would they start now?
Oh, see, now you got lines lit again, see?
Let's take a call.
Okay.
Hi, WNBF. This is the Red Hotline with your friends, Bob and Jerry. Oh.
It was so red, they hung up. Well, fine. That way.
But again, a lot of this has to do because we use, here it is.
Oh.
Because we use state-of-the-art technology.
Yes.
This isn't a regular phone. This is a high-tech phone.
Yes, your hands have to be right there
with
the
software
right.
because, far be it from... to have software that will retain calls until we can handle them.
Yes.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yes, it would.
That particular program, Radio Telephone Interface 2.0. We found that would cost an extra $18. Yep. Okay, now you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Paul from West Windsor.
Morning, Paul.
Hey, I called to allay everybody's fears. Some old people have sayings that put fears to rest. If you polled 1,000 different people, there would be 1,000 different fears.
Okay.
But I want to tell you something that my mother used to say. She was a pretty smart lady. She liked everybody. She was the nicest person you would ever want to meet. But she had a saying that if you have fears and concerns, put it in a paper bag and throw it away and have faith that everything will work out. So if your listeners are listening, there may be 1,000 different fears they have. Remember what my mother used to say. Put your fears and cares in a paper bag and throw it away.
All right. I appreciate the call. And the other thing, it occurs to me, Jerry, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Thank you, Franklin Delano.
You're making it sound
Roosevelt.
like I appropriated that. No, I just thought of that when I was driving to work.
I think it's closer to plagiarism, but that's okay.
You'd have to prove it.
But
good luck with that.
I can do that.
You couldn't prove beyond a reasonable
The
doubt.
only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Yes.
See, I think the way I delivered it sounded far more natural than
well, because he was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and that's how he sounded.
He was trying. I think he probably was trying to impress some people.
Well, I actually know people from Hyde Park, and that is the way they talk. Winthrop Aldrich, who was the assistant commissioner of parks in the New York State, was from Hyde Park, and he sounded exactly like that.
Is Hyde Park perceived to be as a well-to-do community?
Well, it certainly was back in those days.
Yeah, well, I guess that explains it. Let's see if we could take another call.
Okay.
We'll pretend we're the phone company. Hi, this is the phone company. I'm just pretending. No, this is Bob. Bob and Jerry at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob from Vestal.
Hey there, Bob.
Hey, Jerry, I got a story for you.
Okay.
When Agnes come through, my friend's mother was a secretary at Byrne Furniture there on Court Street.
Yes.
And after that flood, the store in Elmira shipped up a bunch of rugs and stuff that had gotten muddy or wet or whatever, but we had to carry them up to the roof of that Byrne Furniture on Court Street. It was like weather like this.
Right.
I was 18 and my buddy was 16. Lucky we were young.
Yeah.
Probably would have killed us.
Yes, it would.
We had to lay those rugs out on the roof and dry them out. I don't know if they shipped them back to the Elmira store or what they did, but that was our job after that flood. I had to tell you about that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, because the Byrne Furniture store in Owego was on the corner of Main and Lake, and then, of course, we had the one on Court Street. I don't know if Elmira had a store or not.
Oh, I swear they did.
They probably did, because it was a good-sized chain at that point, you know?
Yeah, I think it was from Elmira. Probably the people that worked there told. But, yeah, we just happened to get that job through that guy's mother who was a secretary.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, oh, thanks for getting me that.
Yeah, well, when you're young, you do things, and then later on you think, boy, that was kind of hard and not too bright.
It was fun.
Yeah.
We got paid, right?
Well,
That's
that's
the main
true.
thing.
That's true.
Hey, money talks, no one walks. Here's Bob, here's for your information, going back to 1972, a Byrne Furniture ad in the Binghamton Press.
Right.
So, of course, the main store, 123 Court Street,
Yep.
where you and your buddy had the joy of working in the summer of 72. But the other stores, Owego, 50 Lake Street, Oneonta on Broad Street,
Okay.
Norwich on South Broad Street, and they had a store in Walton on Stockton Avenue. And the tagline in the Byrne Furniture ad was the store for happy homemakers.
So there wasn't one in Elmira. I'll be damned.
Yeah, or at least it's... Well, you know what? This ad...
Well, this ad would already have run for the press coverage, and Elmira had their own newspaper, so they probably would have.
What I'm wondering is, though, that ad I was looking at was in September, so maybe the store in Elmira
Might be gone.
had not reopened.
Yeah.
After
Yeah,
the
because
flood.
that's where the flood really hit that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I mean.
We had cousins who ran a furniture store in Corning, and in Corning, the water was up to the middle of the second floor.
Oh, yeah.
And the store never reopened. It had been there for a couple generations.
I went to Corning Glassworks. A friend of mine was applying for a job, and I rode down with him.
Right.
The next year, I think it was, and the water, they had a line on the,
Yes.
like where the water was. I went, are you kidding
that
me?
line is still there because we took our daughters there not too many years ago, and they've still got the line on the wall where the water was in the building.
Wow, isn't that crazy? How can the river come up? You know, it's amazing that even happens.
Well,
But, all right.
if you think about how far away that is from the river itself, and
I
how
know,
high that
it's
water
crazy.
was, yeah.
And by the
All
way,
right.
Bob...
I had to tell you that.
Yeah, the location in Elmira for Byrne Furniture was on Carroll Street. So I see that.
Yeah, see,
that
there
was
we
an
go.
ad in the Elmira Star Gazette shortly before Agnes hit.
And then probably gone after that.
I think so. I appreciate it. Thanks for the memories.
Thank you for the call.
All right, take care.
1037 WNBF, the station. Fill in the blank.
That cares.
Oh, yeah, and on your side.
Okay.
Hi, we're Bob and Jerry. We're on your side.
Hi, I'm the co-host and producer.
Film at 11.
Yes.
I'm going to call up Jim Emke, see if he'll do a story about me naming you co-host. It's also...
and you know, Jim would actually do that.
Well, he
too.
would. And then, so Mary Beth will be watching the Jim Emke News Caravan tonight at 6.
Yes.
On News 34. It'll come as a shock to her because she runs the place.
Yeah.
Well, I don't recall Bob running this by local or corporate management.
Did I get a resume?
So at 6:02, I'd get on this phone right here, Bob, do you have something you want to tell me? It's like, oh, hi, Mary Beth.
Well, I've only been doing this for 11 years, so get a title.
She wouldn't have a problem with that.
No.
But still, she would have said, well, it would have been a courtesy.
If you ran this past corporate. Yes.
Yes, it would have been a courtesy.
That's like when I do things and I look and there's some board members there and I think maybe they should know.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I always say, eventually they're going to find out.
Yeah. Especially since our board meeting's this Wednesday. By the way, in case people in Tioga County are really interested, on the Saturday the 27th at 2, we're having the annual meeting of the Tioga County Historic Society where we do our year in review type of thing. And I get to present a little PowerPoint.
So is this going to be your first annual
Yes.
meeting? Well,
Yes.
congratulations. Maybe I'll show up.
Yeah.
All right. We have more history, more local history to come.
Yeah.
So if you want to participate, I'm sure we have a number.
607-772-1290.
It's live, it's local, it's WNBF. Oh, I thought you were going to give the frequencies.
Well, sorry.
We got to work this.
Yeah. I thought you were going to do commercials because they actually pay for the program.
Yeah. That's funny. You understand the premise of this operation.
Well, I'm
better
usually
than I
used
do.
to at least one break before now. So
That's true.
okay.
Well, we have been talking.
Okay, I'll let you do some.
More coming up after these important massages. Binghamton Now continues with the legendary Gerald Smith.
Yes, indeed. I am Gerald Smith, not necessarily legendary.
Oh, I know what I wanted to remember.
You wanted to remember what we were supposed to talk about?
Yeah, the arch.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, I said...
What arch is that?
The one they used to have there on Main Street.
Oh, yeah, the one that's...
Not the one I drove. So, just to confirm, there still is one arch in Broome County.
Yes.
And that's on East Main Street in Endicott next to the Golden Arch.
Yes, at the original boundary of the village of Endicott.
Yes, where Endicott used to become Union.
Yes.
However, as has been reported by WNBF News, the other arch over at the Johnson City Binghamton line, that at the moment
seems
not
to
there.
be missing.
So that arch, they started construction of both of the arches, I believe, in 1919,
Yep.
and then they were both dedicated on
Labor
Day.
1920.
Yeah. First, which one first?
Oh, shoot. I wrote a column on this.
I love putting you on the spot.
Why do I think they were at the Endicott one? No, they went to Johnson City and then to Endicott. Okay.
Johnson City, I believe, in the morning, and Endicott in the afternoon.
By the way, it was raining, guys. That much I do remember. And they were trying to hope that they had all these activities planned and they had to kind of really revamp the schedule fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, as I reported, I believe it was June 25th. For the first time, I was standing, as I often do, in the middle of Main Street. And
Yep.
people are like, doing their Nelson Rockefeller imitations. And it's like,
Get out of the way.
hey, I'm not a Harper student.
No.
For me, it was SUNY Binghamton. It wasn't Harper. It was SUNY
I went to
Binghamton.
Hoppa.
Hoppa.
Well, I was the liberal arts school, so that's the Harper College.
All right. So I'm standing in the middle of Main Street
Right?
as a great photojournalist who doesn't care for his personal safety too, to get this image
Yes.
of where the arch used to be. So
Yeah.
I'm standing there on the Johnson City side looking, there's Pacemaker Steel on
Right.
the left,
Right.
and then the big church on the right, and looking toward down Main Street, looking east toward downtown. And it was the darndest thing. For the first time in my life, there was no arch at all.
Yeah.
Now, as you may recall, there was a time
Yes.
from, I think, around 1977 to 1982,
Yep.
thereabouts, where, as part of reconstruction project, the only thing that was there was just the steel framework.
Yes. Yep.
So, but this was really, really weird. The bases of on both sides of Main Street, on both north and south sides of Main Street, those bases were still there, but
Right.
otherwise the
Steel.
and everything else,
Well-
the stones were. So they're hoping. I mean, the plan, according to Mayor Martin Maney,
Right.
he said the plan is the arch will be back, but the question is now what additional work needs to be done.
Right, because they found the steel was not in the shape that they wanted it to be in to readhere the stones, because those stone pieces weigh a lot, and they're simulated granite.
Yeah.
There was a word for it when they were originally put up in 1920. I remember when they did the JCs of Johnson City paid to get it restored. They had to find the formula because it's not quite concrete, but it's not quite granite. It's a man-made material, and they had to emulate
Something
it.
like Grancrete or something.
So, yeah, there was a name for it, which I've forgotten it now, but I would love to see that go back. I'd love to see the neon lights get turned back on it, because each one of those arches had neon lights on them.
See, if I was mayor, don't worry, folks, I'm not going to be mayor of Binghamton or Johnson City, but if
Nope.
I was mayor
Yep.
of Johnson City, this would be one way to assure that I'd be a one-term mayor, when it got put back up, without any advance warning,
Right.
those traditional bulbs, the three
Right.
bulbs that people were so fond of, would be replaced by a spectacular, and I'm telling you, a spectacular 21st century LED light display that would knock your socks off. But
would it like pulsate and flash?
Oh yeah. Oh, it'd look like sort of like
causing seizures and things. Maybe not that severe.
Well, we would put a warning because you do have to warn people.
Well, yes.
That if you are prone to seizures, well, then don't look this way.
Right.
But I don't know. Say, if I was mayor of Johnson City and pulled that off without the village board or anyone else knowing it, so they had the big ceremony like some night, like, I don't know, right before the start, maybe the night of the holiday parade in Johnson City. So you have the big ceremony.
Oh, there we go.
And the unveiling and the excitement, sure. the cotton candy and the funnel cakes and all that. And so I flick the switch, or no, I have you. So that gives me plausible deniability. It's like, yes, maybe I'm the mayor, but here's Jerry Smith, so he's going to flip the switch to turn on the new lighting, and it's all this. It's a debacle. I mean, it looks like Studio 54 on steroids.
Yeah.
Oh, even there would be there'd be a disco ball and everything, and people would look at me and they say, Mayor Joseph, did you know? Did you know, as mayor of Johnson City, you can be impeached? I'd be like, no.
By removal from office.
Yeah.
Instant removal from office.
So I'd be like, well, how about if I just say I'm sorry?
To the people of the Triple Cities, and there are many of you listening out there, we would not desecrate.
No, we would.
That iconic. By the way, that's on the National Register of Historic Places.
Both.
Yes, both of them.
Endicott, yeah.
Yes, because I remember when they came on the list, because there aren't too many arches built to honor a program of your employers.
Well,
it's the square deal.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
And one's kind of missing right now, and that's probably the one my great-grandfather worked on, because he worked in Johnson City.
Did your great-grandfather, did he have anything to do with that pagoda over at CFJ Park?
No, Seafred had to do that, and they needed a pump house, and Seafred liked Japanese architecture and told their construction crews to use whatever they had left over and build something looking nice.
So all sorts of remnants and stuff.
Well, and it was workers who ended up in some of the major construction companies. Yeah, there was remnants and pieces left over. So that's why, besides the regular stone, you had gears, and there was a revolver in there at one point, pieces of lanterns. It was a wide variety of stuff, and it's made it a very unique. Of course, it got moved not too many years ago,
right?
To get it out of the way and put it actually in the park, and then got restored, because I know Don Laparta was there that day along with the mayor. And they put the Japanese lanterns back up. It's a very interesting looking piece of architecture.
As they say, unique.
Yeah.
We'll have more of our conversation about local history coming up. I'm Bob Joseph with Gerald Smith on this Monday morning. You're listening to Binghamton Now on WNBF. Yeah. I'm Bob Joseph, Jerry Smith.
I'm here.
So, I know. Did you develop any new information about the nut shop? Because I think when you were here in June, we were talking a lot about what had been the peanut shop and then M&DR Nuts. Did you ever find out any more information?
No,
about
I wrote a column about it a few years ago, because it goes way back. It's over 100 years that's been there, and as a nut shop in one form or another. Of course, Mr. Peanut used to stand out front. Started out, I think I want to call it the Universal Peanut Company or something, but then it evolves into Planters Peanuts and then M&DR Nuts and M&DR Nuts? Yeah, M&DR Nuts, yeah, and such. So it's going to be a loss that we've lost another 100-year-old business.
Now, at some point, and I'm just doing this. This is called a tease. Because
you're going to do a story, aren't you?
A story that hasn't been, as to my knowledge, about something at that place that nobody, you, Ted Koppel, nobody has ever reported on this about that place.
Jim Emke?
No, better check. That's the problem. Now
he's going to call in.
I'll build up and he'll say, Yeah, well, that's all.
Sorry, Jim.
That's all appropriate, Bob. That you think you somehow.
Yeah, but
have
you're doing a story that nobody knows.
Yes, an aspect heretofore unreported, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
Again, I'll wind up doing the story, and Jim would be like, "Yeah, pretty good story, Bob. But if you would do a little, if you would use your Google machine and put in the right search terms, you'll find that I did that story 7 years ago, but it was not nearly as good as yours, of course, because Jim is, I mean, he would,
Oh, yeah.
He's
He's a good guy.
yeah, but he would at least call to my attention. It's like, but, your story's really good.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you didn't invent the story and whatever.
He's a good reporter.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great. And now that it's
He gets his
34.
quotes right.
Well, he does.
It's like George Bosler. That's why George and I work together, because George always got my quotes correct.
Oh, that reminds me.
Yes?
So you bring up George,
Yeah.
and because you've collaborated with him, you've collaborated with a number of people over the
Yes.
years. So, are you in the middle of any new book project? I mean, you always seem to be
I
doing
was
something.
supposed to be working on one, then I got the job on Owego, and things kind of went on the back burner.
Okay.
So probably not maybe
this
year, but maybe next year.
All right.
That would be book number 7.
What's your of the books that you've done? Which, in your personal opinion, are you most proud of?
Probably Partners All, the big fat history that came out in 2006, because that's 400 pages, and that was a lot of work. And then I think it's the Seamy Side of the Street, the first one that George and I did, because we set off a whole campaign of talking about scummy, sordid, wonderful affairs of this community.
That's the beauty of it.
Yes, and it's lent myself into all sorts of talks and walks and everything else in between.
All right. Oh, and by the way, when is your next public walk?
I've got one on, the 28th on Sunday from 2 to 4 for SUNY Broome Community Education. It's our walking tour of the west side of the city of Binghamton.
All right. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Bob.
Coming up, more of your phone calls. This is WNBF, Binghamton Now. I'm Bob Joseph. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll be taking more of your phone calls. So if you have things that you'd like to talk about, be prepared, because we'll want to hear from you. Coming up in a few minutes, right here at News Radio WNBF. Joining us now in the studio, Mark Roth from the Summer Savoyards. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our radio station. What do you think of this place?
I think it's terrific, and I love the color of the walls.
I picked it out, so
Did you really?
thank you. Thank you very much.
What about the green in the other room?
Nope.
And then that's
Nope.
okay.
With this blue, this is this. I call it Bob Blue.
Bob Blue. Well, it's nice with the gray.
Yeah. Look what happened. I only have to look at it, and the guests usually don't see it right behind you. See, we ran out of money. We were only able to do 3 out of the 4 walls.
Well, accent walls are accent walls.
Yeah. I mean,
nice.
the wall that I look at, it's like, well, maybe we can find money in the 2030 budget. And it's like, yeah, okay.
Right.
Why don't we just pretend that we finished the project?
Absolutely.
Just sign off on it.
Well, it all works. It all works.
So, tell us a little bit, for people not familiar with the Summer Savoyards, and many people here in the Binghamton area are very familiar, but for those not familiar with the organization, perhaps you could give us a little history, a little background.
Absolutely. The Summer Savoyards is a group that produces Gilbert and Sullivan operettas. And Gilbert and Sullivan were a composer and lyricist pair from Victorian England. They wrote a lot of very clever, fun operettas, which are basically opera light. They're operas with dialogue, a little more dancing, and these are very funny, often satirical. So the Summer Savoyards is producing these operettas this is our 64th year. And it started off as a bunch of college students, and it has evolved over the years to include people from the community, semi-professionals, and these have evolved into very lush productions with full orchestra, magnificent costumes, and huge sets. So they really evolved into quite a sophisticated producing organization.
And right now, about how many people are involved. For example, I see for the upcoming production, I'm looking at just the production staff. I mean, you're the stage director, but there are so many other people that'll be involved. It's incredible.
Well, you have the cast, which is, I think, 30 to 32. I know we've added a few people. The technical crew, quite a few people on that. Publicity, there's the orchestra and the conductor. So it's really a huge amount of people that all come together to coordinate this collaborative effort, because all theater and stage productions, and of course media, film, television, they're collaborative.
And I looking at these names, and many of the names I'm familiar with, some are new to me, but so all the names with production staff and cast and orchestra and the build crew and all the last minute elves who came out of the woodwork again.
Yes, that we have been looking for, because even though we have so many people, we need a few more people backstage. So there's 3 set changes in this production, which is very unusual. They're huge sets, so we need quite a bit of backstage support as well.
So you have 3 performances. Tell us about this year's production.
This year's production is Princess Ida, or Castle Adamant. It's one of the few Gilbert and Sullivan operettas that has these kind of 2 titles. We just call it Princess Ida. And it's about a very intelligent woman, a little rebellious, who renounces men to start a women's university. However, at the very young age of 1, she was betrothed to a prince, and the marriage contract has come to the time for them to reunite. She is pretty much renounced men. Her prince has been waiting his whole life for her. She doesn't show up when she's supposed to be. The prince and his buds break into the university. Hijinks ensue with romance, merriment, and a little drama. It's really quite funny. It's comedy.
Yeah, well, sounds as they would say, and hilarity ensued. And so you've got performances that are scheduled for Friday and Saturday evening, and also a Sunday matinee. Right.
We have this July 19th and 20th at 7:30, and Sunday at 3:00 p.m. in the air-conditioned comfort of the Anderson Center Chamber Hall.
The beautiful Anderson Center on the Binghamton University campus in Vestal. So give me a sense of what this week will be like. So the first performance is 7:30 Friday, so I take it things are going to be really, really busy between now and then.
Absolutely. Well, this is production week, and this is when we've been rehearsing in a space that is not the theater, and now everyone has to move into the theater, different spaces, sizing. We have to coordinate with the technical crew and lighting, and there's a lot of time pressure because everything, just like when you're doing a repair at home, everything takes longer than you want it to do. Absolutely. So it's a bit of a press, but we all pitch in and work together. Sometimes it gets a little stressful, but I think we all understand that, and the final product should be really a lot of fun.
That's all part of the process.
It certainly is.
The fact that in this day and age, as people think, well, in another year or two, there's no point in us ever planning to do anything because all of life will be taken over by AI. It's nice that there still are live performances with real people. And the fact is, and I've mentioned this, no matter what type of live performance that we're talking about, every performance is always going to be a bit different than the other.
It's a dynamic medium, and Even with every audience, it varies how an audience reacts. That energy feeds the performers. People don't always think that the performers are feeling feel the audience, but as you may know, when you're playing with a house that's full of laughs or doesn't laugh at all or intent on listening, they're with you. It affects the way even the people on stage relate with each other and the audience.
And I've had that experience on a smaller level, say with some community mystery theater performances.
Sure.
And we say, and typically, be a rule of thumb, typically, a Friday audience, a lot of people are coming from work or
It's
whatever.
the work week,
so
yeah.
it takes a while for them to adjust and start to relax. Saturdays, typically, people are already relaxed from enjoying a day off.
They may have had a drink with dinner.
Or a couple. And, and then sometimes if you're doing a Sunday matinee, that's a whole different vibe. But the great thing is each performance, in fact, is unique in the fact that you get this feedback no matter whether you're performing in front of a few dozen people or a couple of hundred people. You get the feedback, and it's gratifying that people are actually paying attention to the work that you're doing.
And it's also informative because you hear what you're doing in a new way. You might not even think that what's going on stage is going to make people respond in that way. And then when they respond, and it's a whole new way of playing it.
Yes.
And so the performance evolves, develops, and usually improves with time.
Absolutely. So Fridays sort of serves as okay, this is the first opportunity for us to perform in public. So you take what you incorporate some of the feedback and some of the experience from Friday night's first performance and put that into the Saturday performance, and then by Sunday, you've performed in front of two public audiences, and it's like,
and it has developed. However, on an opening night, there's a different kind of energy because there's just a little more excitement and buzz.
Because everybody, the performers, the support people, and the audience, there's been this anticipation building for weeks or months that finally we get to see the finished product.
Yeah, and we've been rehearsing since the end of May. So, yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm glad that the community still has, after all these decades, the Summer Savoyards to provide this kind of very special entertainment.
It is. A lot of witty wordplay, some beautiful music, a lot of fun, dancing. And if you haven't seen a Gilbert and Sullivan, I encourage you to put it on your bucket list.
What about tickets? What's the best way for people to obtain tickets?
The best way to get tickets is you can call the Binghamton University Anderson Center box office at 607-777-ARTS. You can also go to the Summer Savoyards website at summersavoyards.org.
Princess Ida performances Friday and Saturday evening at 7:30 and also Sunday afternoon at 3 at the Anderson Center for the Performing Arts on the Binghamton University campus in Vestal.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And I hope everyone has fun. I'm sure it's going to be a great weekend.
We're feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, thank you.
Mark Roth, thanks for joining us in the studio.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you. It's 11:21. You're listening to Binghamton Now on WNBF. 607-772-1290. That's our number if you'd like to speak on live radio. Really live. Here's the forecast. Summertime continues unabated here in the Binghamton area. Partly sunny and hot today. Showers and thunderstorms likely late this afternoon. High 92. The heat index value could be about 95. Tonight, mostly cloudy to begin with some showers and thunderstorms likely, gradually clearing overnight. Low 69. Mostly sunny tomorrow with showers and thunderstorms likely, primarily in the late afternoon. High 90. Heat index tomorrow 96. Then Wednesday, partly sunny with a chance of showers and thunderstorms and the high of 86. Right now, Downtown Binghamton, it's 85. That's 29 Celsius at News Radio, WNBF. At 11:25, let's take a call. Good morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Bob. It's John. I'm not in Milwaukee. I'm in Binghamton.
Really? Well,
yeah.
Welcome, my friend, to the show that cannot end.
Yeah, so, here we have Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in jail, along with the J6, and we're going to welcome Nikki Haley to the podium. They must feel great about that.
Well, like Steely Dan once sang, Nikki, don't lose that number.
Yeah, so Trump is going to lose a lot of his following. This is what happens when you have a kinder and gentler campaign. We've heard that one before. But all this unity, here's the test of the unity. Let's forget about this election right now. So these Republicans are going to tell us they're all unified. And you got to congratulate Paul Ryan on being the odd man out. I mean, he must feel like, I guess Ron Paul isn't going to go there either. I'm not impressed with this new brand of Trump.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the proof will be Thursday night with the much anticipated acceptance speech.
Well, I told you in 2016 I had to shut off the convention, even though I voted for Trump. I mean, when they had the Trump family night, you had to go into suspension of disbelief. The Trump family has 3 different mayors. So I'm thinking here Mitt Romney is watching the Trump family night and saying, geez, why didn't I get 3 wives out of the deal?
Oh, John, come on, man.
And then we've got the ditz, the swimsuit model finally surfaces with this statement about, remember, every politician has a family and a wife that loves them. I mean, every mafioso has a family and a wife that loves them too.
Every talk show host does too, but that doesn't count for much. Of course, we all have families that love us.
But I guess the point is this: if they're unified this week, then a unified Congress goes and gets something done. I mean, this Jordan and this Comer, they're on TV 5 days a week. We're going to do this investigation. We've got this, and here's what we've got, and we're going ahead with this. And they've accomplished absolutely nothing. Nothing.
All right. Well, stay tuned. Stay tuned. I think Thursday night will be telling. I know I'm anxious to hear the specifics, so stay tuned. Don't prejudge. Don't prejudge any of this yet, because we're in, as they say, uncharted territory. That's what makes it so intriguing. 11:29, another call on WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Randy from the town of Dickinson.
Good morning. What's on your mind?
Shalom, Bob. Shalom.
Yes, shalom.
Yes, I'm looking at the front page of the paper this morning, an attack on our democracy. And I also have the front page of the paper from January 7th, 2021, that I saved. I thought it would actually be a significant moment in our history, but I was wrong. How wrong was I? Do you remember what the headline was on the front page of January 7th, 2021?
What? The New York Times?
No, Press and Sun Bulletin.
No.
Specified. Press and Sun Bulletin.
No, I don't remember.
Well, the headline was, it shows a front big picture of Trump supporters knocking over barriers.
Oh, I see it. It says Trump backers storm U.S. Capitol. That's the paper January 7th, 2021. Is that the one?
Yep. Don't you think the headline in today's paper, an attack on our democracy, that should have been the headline today. I mean, the headline back in 2021, that should, instead of Trump backers storm U.S. Capitol, the headline should have been an attack on our democracy. That should have been the headline 3 years ago, not in today's paper. You know the headline I would have used?
What?
No bullets stick to Teflon Don.
I don't think that would be appropriate.
I think it would. I really do.
Well,
I mean, back in 2021, Trump backers storm U.S. Capitol. I mean, my God, you're making it sound so romantic, like they're storming the Bastille or something.
Well, except if you look at the story, and I know a lot of times these days people only focus on the headlines because they don't have enough time to read the story. But here's the lead to the story from that day in 2021. Protesters supporting President Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol Wednesday, clashing with police and forcing a delay in the constitutional process to affirm President-elect Joe Biden's win. Dozens of people breached security perimeters at the Capitol, and lawmakers inside the House chamber were told to put on gas masks as tear gas was fired in the rotunda. So headlines are a tough thing, both for whether it's newspaper articles, traditional print newspapers, or even headlines for online stories, because no matter how you frame the headline, somebody is going to say you got it wrong.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I see what you're saying, too, about what you think would have been more applicable for the January 7th, 2021 Press and Sun Bulletin. I understand based on your explanation. I fully appreciate. On the other hand, I think because they did a couple of stories that provided some pretty extensive detail into what transpired the day before. So what I think is one of the toughest things to educate people, because we need more media education, I think, in this country, is to really educate people to take some time for important stories and read through the stories. Don't focus so much just on the headlines and say, oh, well, I know what happened based on that headline, or I think I know, but I just don't have time to read the details in the story, whether it's for a national political story or a local story. Take some time. It might take you maybe a minute and a half or even 3 minutes to actually follow through and read the entire story. But trust me, as a reporter, I work hard to include a lot of facts in my stories, and then it's very disheartening to hear from a lot of people, I saw that story and I saw the headline, and maybe I read the first paragraph and didn't go any further. And it's like, well, why didn't you go further? Because you would have learned a lot about the whole, again, whether it was something that happened in Washington or something that happened in downtown Binghamton, you would still learn a lot if you would spend 2 or 3 minutes to read the whole story.
Well, I guess I'm not alone in that. I was seeing how January 6th, 3 years ago, doesn't really mean much to people around Americans anymore. I mean,
we have. I disagree with you. I believe most Americans, regardless of their political affiliation, really haven't forgotten. You know, it may seem, because so much has happened over the last 3.5 years, it may seem that it's way, way back in the recesses of our mind. I don't think most Americans have forgotten what transpired.
What other country in the world would somebody who tries to overthrow the government still be walking around with his head attached to his shoulders, and much less still running for office again, political office? I mean, maybe some banana republic in Africa or something, but it shouldn't be this way in this country. I mean, and like I said, that. Like I said, it doesn't really mean much to people because all they're punishing is the ants. The king bee is free as a jaybird, and the peon ants are going to get pardoned once Trump wins the election again.
Well, maybe not. Yeah, I mean, A lot of people are assuming that, but I don't know. We won't know. We won't know until he's president again to find out who ultimately gets pardoned. Some people that we expect could get pardoned. Some people that we don't expect could get pardoned. Who knows? I mean, it's one of the strange things about the presidency of this country. You never know until typically the very end of a president's final term, who's going to actually wind up getting a break. And I'm not sure that I really like it, but that's the way this country has always been. You can rely potentially on the power of the pardon if the president likes you.
If George Washington were still around when January 6th happened, Trump probably would have been hung within a month. I
don't know. It's very difficult to speculate on hypotheticals. It's 11:36 at News Radio WNBF. Taking more calls on this Monday morning. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob from Boston.
Morning.
The guy almost gets his head blown off, and these people are right back on him. I cannot believe these people. Is that guy, like, in another planet or something? What was that all about just now? He's talking about something that happened years ago.
Well, sure. I mean, nobody will forget January 6th. You won't.
Who cares about it? It's stupid.
Well, everybody cares. I mean, I care. You care. We all care about it. Not everybody was happy with the way it turned out.
Hey, let me talk. If I led that, you'd have seen a real insurrection, not that wimpy thing, guys walking around and the cops let them in. No, I am so angry right now. I called here earlier. I was in a good mood, Gerald Smith. And then this guy starts, I'll bet you before noon, probably Vinny or Matt Ryan will call. Oh, yeah. I mean, the guy almost died on national TV. What is wrong with you people?
It was horrific. It was horrific. I've never seen anything quite like it.
You people, I don't know, you people that don't like him, I don't know how horrific you think it was.
Well, I would think most thoughtful, intelligent Americans agree. It was senseless violence, and certainly the difference in this case, for example, between what happened on Saturday evening and what happened on March 30th, 1981, this actually happened on live TV. So millions of people saw it happen live. And when President Reagan was shot outside the D.C. Hilton, although the videotape was broadcast shortly after he was shot, it was not seen live. And this whole thing is just so bizarre.
I'm watching a Yankee game the other day. They make the third out. I turn it over to Trump's rally. There's a guy running in front of the stage with a big AK, whatever what the heck happened? I was shocked, and then I see him taking them off, and these people, they've been step after step, and I've heard people predict, like a year ago, the next step, you know what it is, and it almost happened.
Well, we're fortunate. We're fortunate in this country that even with millions and millions of people, tens of millions of people who are very, very angry about certain issues or very angry about certain elected officials or certain candidates, the vast majority of Americans can behave in a way that doesn't result in any violence, that doesn't attempt to harm anyone.
Yeah, but the rhetoric, I mean, you for 9 years now, every day on the show, Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump did that, Donald Trump's a bad guy, Donald Trump, come on, if somebody talked about you like that every day, how would you like that? It's sickening, and these people just don't get it. No wonder the guy, it's a wonder he didn't get shot a couple of years ago, okay, I've had enough.
All right.
These people that call in here and they just don't get it.
All right. Well, I appreciate your calling in, and stay tuned. We're going to keep people posted, not just today, but throughout the week. This is a community conversation. Everybody's invited. 607-772-1290. Morning, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
It's Joan from Bingo.
Morning.
Good morning. This morning, I was listening to, I guess it was the national news on 1290, and they reported a policeman on the roof before the shooting, and apparently he retreated when, I guess, the guy pointed his rifle at him or a gun at him, and then he went to shoot off 8 rounds to kill a person, to injure severely 2 others, and to injure the president. That was a surprise to me. I hadn't heard that before.
Well, there are a lot of questions about what precisely transpired at that building. And so seems to me
somebody else was on the roof.
Well, I'm just wondering, in this day and age where virtually everything we do is recorded, there are video recordings of virtually everything, I have to believe that someone has at least one video recording of what happened there. And who knows if that part about a local police officer is accurate. Who knows if he had a body-worn camera and it was activated. There might be video from that. I don't know. We're still in the very early stages of the investigation, so it's going to be fascinating in the coming days and weeks and months to find out more information, including some firsthand accounts as to what happened and why. You know, how could it have happened?
Well, even if he was on the roof, he would have reported in before he went up on the roof, because I'm going up to look at, there's a unauthorized person on the roof. And then when he climbs up there and gets up there, he doesn't have his revolver out in order to, protect himself in case that there's because why would somebody be on the roof? Well, I guess they wanted a better view, maybe. But, there's a lot of questions, why he retreated and not just took the guy out right then and there. This guy had all his, I saw pictures of his equipment, or at least I thought it was his stuff. Maybe it was the sniper stuff. But anyway, if I was a policeman and I saw that kind of setup, and no FBI markings, no Secret Service markings, no nothing, that they weren't supposed to be there, and he was sighting in right toward the president with the rifle, I would probably have shot him, or at least yelled at him, and then he would, if he tried to turn the gun on me or a gun on me, I would have shot him right away.
Yeah, no, there are so many small and really big questions that need to be answered, and I'm hoping that some of the biggest questions will be answered fairly soon, or at least preliminary answers. The investigation, total investigation, and it's not a single investigation, all the investigations will take many months to complete, but I hope we start to get some solid answers about at least some of the most important questions each of us has, so we can go forward. The one thing that I've had discussions with some people about this in the past, and I haven't talked too much about it. I don't know if I've ever said it on the program. I think I may have in passing. I don't think having presidential visits or candidate visits outdoors under any circumstances is justifiable anymore. Maybe the one exception could be on Inauguration Day every 4 years. But other than that, because of the inherent risk involved in protecting, whether it's the president or presidential candidates, because of the risk. Doing any event outdoors, I think, is unwise. I think if there have to be events, and I would even, if I had a magic wand, I would reduce the amount of presidential travel and try to reduce to a great extent even big rallies. And I understand they're part of our political process, so I'm not saying we do away with political rallies, because that would strike many people as un-American. But I think really having big events outdoors is running an unnecessary risk. And I don't know, maybe presidents and candidates will not change their ways. I know that they think that it's critical to at least sometimes be out in front of the people, because it affects at least your perceived popularity. But I think the risk now is too high.
Yeah, but I think that that's the only way you're going to be able to be sure that you're not watching an artificial.
No, I understand that too.
Speech.
I understand that too, especially now with AI. I don't know what the solution is. I'm really concerned because millions of dollars, and of course they'll never tell us. They never tell us how much money they spend protecting the president and other top officials, as well as the presidential candidates. It's always a top secret. All we know is it's got to be tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So it's top secret, so they can keep that secret because they claim it's a security issue to disclose how much they spend, which I don't understand. If you're spending $10 million or $500 million on security details, I don't see where that interferes or makes the protectee less safe. I just don't think there's adequate accountability, and maybe that'll change. I mean, obviously, the Secret Service and others are going to have to answer some questions before congressional committees, so maybe there will be better oversight of how they're spending the money to try to protect the important people, the office holders and the candidates. Appreciate your call.
Okay, listen to Bongino, because he worked there, so he should have an interesting analysis.
I'll be listening. It's coming up in about 20 minutes right here on News Radio WNBF. I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now. Let's take another call, shall we? Let's go to the first ward. Martin in Binghamton, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Bob. Couple things, life goes on. I mean, life is timing, and I don't know if you've seen me. You didn't mention it, but been busy with calls. But Eileen Cannon there dropped the documents case this morning. Threw out the case for Trump and his document case. Little knee-jerk reaction there, and the timing couldn't be worse.
That was the classified documents. That's true. Eileen Cannon, the district judge, put out a 93-page ruling just a short time ago. According to CNN, it's not a regular ruling. It's a shock ruling. So CNN says this is a shock ruling dismissing the classified documents case against Donald Trump, and it clears away one of the major legal challenges facing the former president.
Yes, well, they can still appeal it, but I mean, that's the timing. I mean, it certainly stinks. It looks like it. And the caller there in the beginning of the show had it right too about the cover of the paper today, an attack on our democracy about who has been, because life goes on, who has been attacking our democracy? Who has plans to end our democracy? What about the plan 2025? And, all along, he hasn't been running for us. He's been running for himself. Like he told that voter in Las Vegas, he says, I don't care about you. I just want your vote. People are dropping in the heat, and they're helping him, and he's telling them he doesn't give a crap about them, and this is BS. I mean, what happened to him? I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier for all the things that he said.
Well, don't say that. I mean, the reality, if you look at the history of this country for so long, there's always been the fear of violence. I mean, this goes back to even before we were alive, that violence has sometimes been part of politics, and in most cases, the people who behave violently are people who have some serious problems. The vast majority of people in this country can disagree, and even strongly disagree, on some of the most basic issues facing us. They don't behave in a way that is going to injure or kill anyone. They may use some very strong rhetoric, but as far as being able to exercise restraint, 99.999999% of Americans can exercise restraint. It's the people who have some serious problems who behave in a violent fashion.
Yeah, but there's never been a candidate like this guy who's really upended politics and the tenor of the politics. I mean, he's attacked and denigrated the military, the civilians, women. I mean, there's never been anybody like this guy.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we have to find out what he says on Thursday night when he speaks to America in his acceptance speech. Appreciate your call, Martin. See if we can squeeze in one more call. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Vic from the Forks.
All right. We only have a few seconds, so give me a quick thought.
I just want to thank God that Trump wasn't killed in that attack. And I think when I saw that picture of him with his fist up, I actually watched it on TV, but when I saw the picture come out of him with his fist up and the American flag behind him and mouthing the word fight, it reminded me, and I know there's no way you can measure this to what it reminded me of, but it reminded me of the Marines at Iwo Jima raising the flag. That's the spirit of our next number 47 president. That's the spirit he has for America, and he is going to win by a landslide, I believe, especially if Biden's the candidate.
All right, that's all the time we have for this morning, Vic.
Okay, Bob, take care.
Thank you. And to be continued. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to those who called. I'm Bob Joseph on Binghamton Now from WNBF.